What's up guys, David Rodriguez here, Stomp Tricking, and in today's video we're going to be going over the 4 kinds of athletes, or what kind of athlete are you. This isn't some dumb test that you can try on yourself. This is going to be listed out with specific criterias, and this doesn't even have to apply to athletes. This applies to any kind of hobby or activity that requires skill in what you're doing. And I formulated this thought process. I'm sure it's nothing new, but I got this idea from Dan John from his book, Can You Go? It covers much more than what I'm about to go over, and he is again the base for where I developed this idea of the 4 different kinds of athletes or hobbyists or skilled personnel, I guess you could say. So without further ado, let's get to it with the first one, the type 1 athlete. For type 1 athletes or personnel, Dan John divides his into quadrants. I'm going to just divide mine into types. There will be some similarities and slight differences, but here we go. I think a type 1 personnel athlete they're the absolute noob. They have no idea what they're doing, or they're just starting to get into whatever activity it is, whether it be tricking, football, basketball, soccer, whatever. And they're also just learning the basic, or for children are also put in this category, they're just learning basic motor patterns of being a human. Standing, walking, running, skipping, jogging, things of that nature. Also, this, I believe, encompasses any age range, because when you start out, you don't have to be young to start out something new. Keep that in mind. Now, even though everybody starts off as a type 1 athlete or personnel, but the nice thing is that with just practicing, or good, consistent, thoughtful practice, you can easily escape being a type 1 person, or type 1 personnel, or type 1 athlete. The second type of personnel or athlete is just type 2. And these people range anywhere from casual to decent. And it's because you know your way around whatever it is that you're doing, your hobby or your sport. So if you play soccer, you know your way around a soccer ball, you know drills, you know how to shoot, you know how to kick. Same thing with tricking. You probably have a couple of tricks underneath your belt. You got at least up to fulls, B-twists, quirks, whatever. Same thing with gymnasts. You probably have round off, back handspring, back tuck, or back walkovers, things of that nature, right? You're just casual to decent, in that decent is just that you are, if you have a friend group that you play with, you are probably the best in your friend group, and that's about it. And typically you are a patron of the sport or the hobby. You are doing it for the love. And now this is kind of for the love of the sport, right? The most pure time when everything is great and you're not getting too wrapped up into it, but it's just something that it kind of it fulfills something within you, and that's a good thing. And as weird as it sounds, you're not getting paid as a criteria for this. You're not getting paid to do this. No one is sitting down and being like, hey, we're going to take you to this place, or flying you to this place. You are doing X and we'll pay you Y. You are just a patron of the hobby or the sport that you are doing. And this is going to be the majority of people. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just depends on what are you going to be your priorities in your life, and what are you going to try and take the next step, or are you just going to try and are you just going to stay where you are? So again, I would classify myself as a type 2 person. I'm not very good at tricking. I've been only practicing for 4 years. I am trying to get better. I'm trying to put in time and effort, but I am still not very good. No one is flying me out to do these things. And again, most people fall within this type 2 category, in my opinion. Again, that's fine. So let's move on. The type 3 athlete or personnel is, well, an athlete or you could say the professional of whatever it is that they're doing, they're being paid for their performances, or they're at least being like flown out or sponsored by somebody who say, hey, if you do this, we will pay you Y. So if you're a Magic player, right? A Type 3 Magic player is going to be somebody who is probably sponsored by Channel Fireball, or sponsored by any of the like MTG, like Card Kingdom or something like that. People who are being sponsored by teams and being said, hey, go to this thing and we'll pay you to do this. Same thing with chess. If there's a person that's sponsored on a chess team, or if there's a person that's sponsored on a any kind of hobby, or like basketball. If you are on a basketball, like an NBA basketball team, you are a Type 3 athlete. Same thing with football or soccer or whatever. If you're in a like one of the actual like high level leagues in a club, you are a Type 3 athlete. And the thing is that you have to understand is that there are very, very, very few people who ever make it to this echelon of activity. Now, it's not to say like get your hopes down and say that you can never reach it, but again, these opportunities are very hard to come by. And when you really look at like the numbers of there, because there's millions of people to maybe 100 people who've actually made it. And so like taking a page from my personal experience as a tricker, right? I could probably list, there's probably about like 100-ish, maybe more trickers that are being flown to different events and being praised for what they do, and being said, hey, if you show up to our gathering, we will pay you X to show up, or X to battle, or we'll pay you X to host a seminar. But then you actually look at how many people have attended a gathering who are not getting paid to show up or getting paid to do anything, right? They're literally there as a patron of the sport. Those are the Type 2 athletes. And so again, don't let like the idea that I can't ever be a Type 3 athlete, because there are plenty of older people who are making it. And so for example, somebody that I like to think of as you clutch onto your last vestiges of youth is Matteo Di Cara. He is from, I believe he's from Italy. He is a 35-year-old tricking, or 36-year-old tricking athlete as far as his last post. And he started when he was 25, and now he is definitely on par with the greats of the sport, and I would definitely consider him a Type 3 athlete. Unfortunately, he's injured now, but people invite him to gatherings. People would definitely fly him out to gatherings to perform, to do whatever, right? So just because you may not have started at perhaps a prime time, doesn't mean that you couldn't at some point hopefully hit being a Type 3 athlete. Looking at Type 4 athletes, everybody knows who the Type 4 athletes are. They are the Michael Jordans of basketball, or I guess a more current analogy is like the LeBron James of basketball, for more modern, right? For boxers, right? Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, those people, GOATs, Usain Bolt. For us, for trickers, right? Michael Guthrie, for sure. Shosei Iwamoto, Zen Kajihara is well on his way to being a Type 4 athlete, if he's not already a Type 4 athlete. Again, you know who they are. You've seen them. Everything that they do is just so... The things that are hard are just almost seem like it's ridiculously easy to them. There's no, like... Nothing seems hard. And it's not even that they're like you could say like a jack of all trades, whereas they're mediocre at everything, but they have a wide, right, skill pool. They are good at everything, at every facet of the hobby or sport that they are doing. They are great at it. They excel in it. And if you think of type 3 athletes as 1%ers, right? Type 4 athletes are 0.01 percenters. To make a type 4 athlete is very, very situational. I saw it in a recent tricking discussion post where we're talking about like what makes a Shosei Iwamoto, like why are all these people from Japan so good, or what's making all these people so good. And I think it comes down to again, situational. It becomes situational, and I'll describe it right now. You have to have 3 things, 4 if you include basically destiny or fate, because it kind of seems like that's what you need. You need fate and destiny on your side to, 1, make a type 4 athlete, or you yourself be a type 4 athlete. So let's look at this real quick. Now, genetics. Again, 2 out of 3 things you have no control over. Genetics. You're stuck with whatever mom and dad gave you, all right? So if you somehow find a way to go back in time and maybe pick the better genetically gifted parent and pair them up with someone a little bit more genetically gifted and make them have a baby, you better hope it's still you, because if not, then it's just a better version of you or whatever. So again, you have no control over genetics, over what it is that you do. Second one, the environment. The environment, so say you got genetics now, but if the environment that you're born in doesn't support, 1, sports, or doesn't support like any kind of education, right, it's going to be a little bit hard for you to be a type 4 athlete. You're going to need both the social and economic advantages. Again, this isn't trying to be political, but it's just what it is. You have to have the social and economic advantages of being either probably like born to a family that has enough funds or money to be able to put you through whatever high level camps that you want to go through, or you are born with like one of your parents is a high level coach of that sport, and so you have the advantage of that you're, hey, like you're, and probably that person then has a facility that you can train in, or does the environment that you're born in even support the sport that you want to be in? So for example, if you want to play hockey, but you were born in like South America, it's probably going to be kind of hard for you to play hockey. I'm sure with the advantages or the advances in technology, they can make a hockey rink, but like hockey doesn't, as far as I know, have a huge following in South America. It's just what it is, right? So you have to have your genetics uncontrollable by you, environment also uncontrollable by you. The only thing you have that you can control is the time, and even then, it takes a lot of time. If you look at the goats of tricking right now, I'm going to say 2 of them. Michael Guthrie and Shosei Iwamoto. Michael Guthrie, if you look in his Instagram bio, it says 22 years martial arts, 16 years tricking. He's only about, I believe, 25 years old. Over half of his life has been spent geared towards tricking, and then 16 years, well, again, over half of his life has been spent actually tricking. Now, and so if you subtract 25 from 22 years of martial arts experience, he started when he was 3 or 4. So, like, good luck catching up to 22 years of experience whenever you're about 20. You can start, but you're probably not going to be as advantaged as Michael Guthrie is, or especially with tricking, if you start at 20, than you would if you had started whenever you were 4 or 3. Same thing with Shosei Iwamoto. Shosei is 8, or no, he started when he was 8, sorry, he's 15 now. Again, a little under half of his life has been spent tricking. He was born in Japan, which supports tricking, obviously has a huge, large tricking community, and he had a great teacher, and he has a fantastic facility to train in, right? It's the same thing with Michael Guthrie. He was born into it. He had a facility to train at. Kansas seems to have a pretty good tricking community. I'm not actually very sure. I'm not versed in the history of Kansas, but if you look at these goats and you look at, for any sport, you notice that they are started from not like necessarily a head start, but they have advantages that some people just don't have. And that's fine. That's not a huge deal, right? Not everybody can be a goat. You can be your own goat. You can't be the goat of the whole thing. Quick recap over what we discussed today. If you're a type 1 person, you were either a child who was just learning basic motor functions, or you were just a very, very novice beginner in the sport. You're just learning about it. Phase takes relatively easy to jump out of into type 2. You're a filthy casual. You kind of know your way around things, and then you can even kind of become like a try-hard. Many people are going to stay within this category, and not many people are going to ever get out of this type 2. Type 3, you are now a professional of whatever it is, of your hobby or your sport. People want to talk to you, people want to get advice from you, people want to know what it is that like gets you there to that level, and people pay you to go do things, to show up at events, things like that. And type 4, you're the goat. You are a rare exotic species of goat. Nobody can touch you in the sport. You make hard things look easy, and easy things are still easy. So no one can touch you. Doesn't matter. Now, do you believe in this kind of thought process? Do you think it's a little bit too confining? Do you think things can be nuanced a little bit more? Please let me know in the comment section down below. Like, subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next video. Hope everyone had a great winter break.